Dark dimension. Deep black is an eternal theme. It's like being in a black void, scary and deadly. Only. Among them, there are finally some embellishments of other colors. The colorful lines are like brushes, sprinkled on the black lacquered curtain. Extraordinarily eye-catching, underfoot. Stepping on a piece of barren land, Russell observed the surrounding scene with great interest. Can't help but be a little surprised. I'm afraid only a person like Dormammu can endure this kind of ghostly place. Just the dark energy pervading here is enough to make people decay. Perish. Not to mention, humans are social animals. If it were someone else, he would have gone crazy long ago. Well, only Dormammu, who is completely out of character. Only then can we endure the harsh environment here. The other side. Watch the Supreme Mage suddenly appear in the dark dimension. Dormammu was stunned for a moment. I'm so. Just kidding around. In the end, are you still serious? But soon. After thinking about it, he couldn't help being pleasantly surprised. A more ferocious smile appeared on the terrifying face. Supreme Mage, you are courting death. This is the dark dimension, the territory of my Dormammu. The twinkle in Dormammu's eyes grew colder. This is his place. It's his domain of Dormammu. It's not like on Earth, you need to be subject to various institutions. Just in front of him, breaking into the dark dimension abruptly? For how many years has this never happened? Even the Ancient One did not dare to do this. At most, that is Soul Astral, and a wave with him. Because this is simply a sheep entering the tiger's mouth. Suicide. Hearing this, Russell immediately smiled. Turning his head, he looked in the direction of Dormammu. I think, first of all, you have to use your water-filled brain to think about it. Will I enter the dark dimension so unsuspecting? This, here. Dormammu couldn't help hesitating for a moment. That's what I said. It does make sense. The Supreme Mage will not be unaware of how powerful it is in the dark dimension. However, he still broke in without hesitation. Moreover, it is so calm and unhurried. Could it be that he still has something to rely on? Seeing the calm look of Supreme Mage, Dormammu suddenly couldn't help becoming suspicious. Just fast. He didn't think much about it. Shaking his head, he cut off these thoughts. Staring directly with icy eyes, he said viciously. No matter what means you have, it's useless to me. In the dark dimension, I, Dormammu, am an invincible existence. He has reason to suspect that the Supreme Mage in front of him is trying to scare him. And the purpose of doing so? Most likely to distract him and take the opportunity to escape. Thinking of this, Dormammu's heart suddenly became tense. The figure rose sharply. The already huge amounts of body became huge again. The endless gathering of dark energy, for a moment. A terrifying energy tide has formed. In the calm dark dimension, a violent storm suddenly set off. Even the faint light around it is crumbling. Go to hell, damn Mage. The voice just fell. The vast energy torrent crushed in an instant. A terrible sense of oppression strikes. Even the entire dark dimension is shaking. Seeing the astonishing scene in front of him, Russell couldn't help feeling a little bit emotional. Really, this is the real Dormammu. The power he should have had. On Earth, it is difficult for him to perform well. And in the dark dimension, he can vent freely. Only. I've come prepared. Think about it all before you come. The words should just fall. For a moment. Endless light emerges. The dark dimension seems to be lit up instantly. The sudden light almost blinded Dormammu, and the scene that appeared in front of him suddenly made him a little stunned. As this? A sun? The scorching high temperature seemed to be burning the surrounding air, distorting the space. Billowing high-temperature flames, like scorching hot magma, churned on top. A strong light broke through the darkness, as if it can illuminate everything, drive away the darkness. Isn't this huge fireball that suddenly appeared a sun? Appeared suddenly, almost didn't last the dark dimension. And the weird thing is, what the hell, the energy released by this sun is actually magic power. In an instant, all movements came to an abrupt stop. Looking not far away, the figure standing in front of the sun. Dormammu suddenly became suspicious of life. How did this guy come up with such a weird thing? Enchanted sun in Legendary? Almost blinded his dog's eyes. Besides, such a big sun, how did it bring it in? Dark dimension. In this originally dark and dead dimension. At the moment. Blooming brightly, radiantly. Violent vibrations, as if the space is about to collapse. The amazing energy even makes the entire dark dimension boil. Like a bubble, it expands and expands constantly. Suddenly, people can't help but have the illusion that they are about to explode. And at the center, in the darkness, the terrifying figure of Dormammu looms large. Is manipulating the power of the dark dimension, constantly impacting. Billows of dark energy swept in. As if endless, the waves are raging. The tide of energy turned into a storm that spanned the entire dimension. It seems to be drowning everything. However, the more he attacked, the more confused the expression on his face became. Gradually, he became a little dazed. Even the movements in his hands couldn't help but slow down a lot. The dark and terrifying giant face became extremely red under the reflection of the strong light. It seems to be as eye-catching as a monkey's butt. Looking at the huge fireball towering in front of him, Dormammu felt like he was about to collapse. What's going on with this stepping horse? What the hell is this? Obviously, it is just an ordinary-looking sun. Although, the size is huge. Let him experience the long-lost sense of insignificance. In fact, it almost ate up the entire dark dimension. However, size is not everything. Same. This is not a problem for him, Mephisto. Only. The sun in front of him was obviously a bit different. Thinking of this, Dormammu couldn't help gnashing his teeth. In the same way, my heart hurts very much. What the hell? It's okay to have that damn magic power. But why can't even the power of the dark dimension have an effect? The power of most of the dark dimension crushed it down. Not to mention just a fixed star. Even a galaxy has been crushed to powder. However, now, but it didn't have any effect. Don't say that it is ground into powder. Even the magic brilliance above showed no signs of weakening. Looking at it for a few seconds can brighten his dog's eyes. Not moving like a mountain. That's what's happening now. It made him now, unconsciously, a little suspicious of life. Could it be that my opening method is wrong? Or is there something wrong with this supreme mage? How long has it been since we haven't seen each other this time, and it's become so much stronger? Could it be that Dormammu's existence, obsolete? I was thinking about it. Suddenly, Dormammu suddenly realized that something was not quite right. After careful perception for a while, his face suddenly changed. Why, it feels like my strength is constantly waning. If it hadn't stopped suddenly, perhaps, he hasn't noticed the problem yet. This feeling is very familiar to him. The same has happened many times. Feels like body being hollowed out, gradually become weaker. Only, the speed at which the body becomes weak this time. If you say, what you have experienced before is to turn on the water from the tap. The water flows long. And now, it's like opening a reservoir to release water. It's just a blast. Can clearly feel the power decay of the entire dark dimension. For a moment, he has identified the culprit for all this. Damn Mage. Looking at the figure who is leisurely walking on the sun. Dormammu gritted his teeth immediately, itching with hatred in his heart. Surely this guy did something right. Apart from him, no one else would do such a thing. More importantly, this supreme mage has a criminal record. And more than once. Sorry. Say good head to head. As a result, it's cloudy again. And, what's more terrible? He can't stop it at all. This is so. Thinking of this, Dormammu was suddenly furious. Can't help it. Rage like a thunder, constantly. You bloody thief, despicable, cowardly. What a disgrace to Mage. There is a kind of battle with me dignified. The roar resounded throughout the dark dimension. For a while. Even Russell has woken up from philosophical thinking. Looking at Dormammu's distorted, hideous face of horror. He couldn't help but smile knowingly. There is a good saying. Human happiness is often based on the suffering of other people. Dormammu is now looking distraught. There is one thing to say. Indeed, have fun. An upright battle? Russell narrowed his eyes and smiled. Aren't I now? Although, this battle is a bit unusual. Well, draw energy openly. Steal electricity right under Dormammu's nose. To power the magical sun he has fashioned into a gluttonous behemoth. Hearing this, Dormammu suddenly became more and more furious. Despicable Mage. Gritting his teeth, he let out a roar. For a moment. Behind. The darkness that drowns everything strikes again. It seems vast. The endless dark ocean spans the entire dimension. Sweeping and coming, rolled up waves of surging waves. Submerges all other colors in the entire space. The strange breath seemed to overwhelm everything for a moment. Even the space is trembling and twisting, but, obviously, He didn't consider the possibility of why it failed. Looking at the mighty torrent of energy coming, Russell couldn't help but twitch his eyebrows and smile. Come on, more. No matter how much you come, just take it all. It's up to you to be able to explode, dark dimension. I don't know how long it has been, because of Dormammu's successive attacks. The constantly trembling and vibrating space finally stopped. The whole dimension, it turned into a dead silence again. Only, the darkness gradually dissipates and the light emerges. At the center, the rising hot light is dyed with the brilliance of magic power. Like a light in the dark night, the light gradually spread to the surroundings. Stand above the sun surface of fixed star. The scorching high temperature did not affect the general at all. The tumbling energy storm and the magma-like heat wave were directly ignored. Russell's mind was immersed in his body, watching the astonishing scene. He couldn't help but nodded in satisfaction. This thing is much easier to use than expected. He thought so. Just roll a wave of wool at will. Who knows? This Dormammu is so sensible. Get what you want. Constantly feed him. However limited, this Dormammu attack is really hard enough. Thinking of this, Russell couldn't help but feel a little lingering fear on his face. This guy's attack like a storm has reached the point of madness. The whole space is crumbling. It's as if it's about to be torn apart. Even in the end, he almost exploded the magical sun he had created with great difficulty. Although it's a little risky, but it's all worth it. After all, there is a lot to gain. Also, great value for money. Inside the body. In extra dimensions, or in other words, in the small universe. A torrent of energy from the dark dimension keeps pouring in. Accompanied by the roar of the entire universe, it continues to expand. The boundary of the void spreads like an unpredictable place. A great change is underway, and all this. It's all a big gift from Dormammu, a good old man. The growth of the small universe has accelerated a lot again. Russell couldn't help but clench his fist, feeling carefully. More and more powerful power gushes out from the body. And it keeps on coming. Pause time. A sense of satisfaction can't help but arise spontaneously. Even, there is a feeling of being invincible. Definitely. This is just a sequela of the sudden power surge. Just an illusion. Simply put, just a little bloated. Whoever believes in this evil estimate, it is not far from death, soon. Organized the messy thoughts in my heart. Russell couldn't help but cast his gaze not far away. Seeing him like that, I was a little surprised. This Dormammu is completely autistic. Think carefully. Can this not be self-closing? If you say you can't beat it head-on, you still dare to say it. However, this way of going the other way, it is simply a dimensionality reduction blow. Let's crush the IQ. However, compared to the last time, this Dormammu's psychological endurance is much better. After all, after being driven back from Earth last time. Anyhow, it was also a burst of exasperation and cursing. And now, silent, not saying a word. Without saying a word, he continued to create dimension channels. And, gradually expand and spread. He glanced at the other end of the dimension channel. The vast, grotesque scene of Luli. Russell suddenly felt a little familiar. Then, after thinking about it carefully, it became clear immediately. For a moment, his face became a little weird. This guy, is he banishing me into the multi-universe? What kind of whimsical idea is this? Could it be that he wanted to drive him out of the dark dimension like this? Actually, how did he know? Dormammu now mind. I regretted so much that I almost screwed my head off and kicked it like a ball. Just wanted to cry without tears. Why provocative words? The provocation is fine, so why put this guy in here? I can't wait to give myself 2 slaps. If I had known earlier, I shouldn't have taken a second look at which passageway. Otherwise, I can't help but want to go out. And Murphy Toss, you shouldn't have listened to that guy's nonsense, Dormammu cursed inwardly. Almost didn't give him a cordial greeting from top to bottom of his family tree. It was this guy who tipped him off. And, also told him that Supreme Mage is not on Earth. Result? The current situation is simply out of control. It is easy to ask God, but it is difficult to send God away. Look at what the Supreme Mage looks like now. I'm afraid that if I don't drain him dry, I want to stay here and never leave. Thinking of this, Dormammu became more and more tired. The movements of the hands, subconsciously accelerated a lot. Hurry up and send this damned scourge out, otherwise. His dark dimension, I'm afraid he really needs to be hollowed out. However, at the moment, in the dimension channel. A figure slowly walked out from inside. The moment he saw this figure, Dormammu was stunned. Immediately afterwards, he couldn't help gnashing his teeth and said, "It's you, Murphy Toth. You still have the face to come back. What the hell? This old guy, he really screwed me over. What can I not come? I don't seem to have done anything to apologize to you." Murphy Toth clapped his hands and said, hearing what Murphy Toss said in Dormammu, "My lungs are going to explode. This guy just cheats, and he won't admit it after cheating." Murphy Toth was still looking at Dormammu as if he didn't know anything. But he already felt the weakness of the dark dimension now, and saw Russell's figure, so he understood it instantly. And the unusually dazzling sun. Looking at this sun, even Murphy Toss was also very strange, and the magic force from the sun made Murphy Toss feel that this matter is not so simple. In addition, Dormammu at the moment's power is constantly weakening, as if the power was drawn away, and after he came here. The strength on the body also has a feeling of being pulled. And that direction is the sun. Murphy Toth definitely also saw the figure of Supreme Mage Russell. I also understand the intention of Dormammu at the moment. Indeed, the way Dormammu is doing now is very good, and it is not bad in the face of the current situation. But the person opposite him was none other than Russell. If it was to deal with Russell, this method was obviously not enough. The sun, Dormammu that Russell created alone can't handle it. Murphy Toss looked at the sun, and was still very worried. The Supreme Mage Russell was really different from the Ancient One back then. Back then, Ancient One stayed in the same place almost all the time. Wherever it was like this Russell, he was there almost everywhere. And I also like to take advantage of it very much, and you can't say anything about taking advantage of it, and you can't say it if you are bitter. This feeling is what Dormammu feels the most, and now he is almost about to be squeezed dry. The dark dimension at the moment is also very weak compared to before. Although Dormammu is trying to find a way, it doesn't seem to work. Russell at the moment is really flattered. The power of this dark dimension is indeed huge enough that even this sun can't support it. Russell also found out that Murphy Toss had entered here quietly just now, and by the looks of it, he came to see the situation of Dormammu. But the situation here, Murphy Toss is also very surprised. He also had a new understanding of this Supreme Mage, although this Dormammu was already so careful. It was still caught by Russell and made it into the current situation. Now Murphy Toth is also smart to help Dormammu. "Come on Dormammu, let me help you." Murphy Toss mobilized his strength to help Dormammu expand the dimension channel. However, what Russell at the moment has absorbed is almost the same, but Russell does not intend to cheapen this testophytos. Now it's just Dormammu bleeding a lot and Murphy Toth is still twitching, which is not Russell's style. If this kind of person doesn't teach him a lesson, he will probably make things worse next time. This time it was because the Dark Elves were indeed a little weaker, so he came back. If it was replaced with a slightly stronger enemy, maybe he would come back after finishing there. By that time, this Dormammu may have been drilled out of that space wormhole long ago, and things will probably get out of control at that time. If that's when Murphy Toth steps in again, that's not what Russell wants to see. After all, Russell has never suffered a big loss since he became the Supreme Mage. It didn't happen before, and it won't happen in the future. As the Supreme Mage, Russell himself will never allow this kind of thing to happen. This is still an unwritten rule passed down from Ancient One, and Ancient One is a master who does not suffer. Although Ancient One seldom intervenes in these matters, but whenever Ancient One intervenes, there is not a single thing that suffers. So Russell has to teach Murphy Toth a lesson. Thinking of this, Russell slowly pushed the sun towards Dormammu and Murphy Toth. At the moment, Dormammu and Murphy, who were opening the dimensional channel, also keenly sensed Russell's movements. Wait, Supreme Mage, wait, what are you doing? Murphy Toss also knew Russell's intention at the moment. Dormammu has been opening up this dimensional channel for a while, so the heavy responsibility of blocking the sun naturally falls on Faith, and Faith cannot lose his ally Dormammu yet. Dormammu played a crucial role in the layout of Faith in the future. Obviously, Russell also took a fancy to Moto Faith's small mind. That's why Murphy Toss was deliberately placed together, and the result was exactly as Russell thought. Murphy Toss began to send power to the sun. Started to push out, but very slowly, Russell's sun was constantly closing in on Faith and Dormammu. Helpless, Toss can only increase his investment in the calendar area. By now, Murphy Toss understood that this Supreme Mage did it on purpose, and was deliberately trying to give himself a bad blow. But it's too late to say anything now, Mephitos can only resist the approach of the sun, with all his strength, and buy time for Dormammu. And Dormammu has nothing to do with Murphy Toth right now. The most important thing right now is Russell. So Dormammu at the moment is also trying his best to open up the dimension channel. After all, if Russell stays here for a second longer, Dormammu will have a headache. I can't wait to send Russell out as soon as possible. Dormammu's current loss is indeed too great, and the entire dark dimension has suffered a lot. Just like Russell, Dormammu doesn't know how long it will take to recover before returning to the previous state. And Murphy Toss at the moment also regretted it. Why did he insist on provoking Supreme Mage when he had nothing to do? He didn't dare to come when Ancient One was there before, but now the Supreme Mage has changed, and he didn't understand the new Supreme Mage carefully. It is too underestimating the enemy. Today's move is enough for Murphy Toss to remember. Before he underestimated Russell, he always felt that Russell was not that powerful. It's good now, and it's a disadvantage, but fortunately Russell's son is not approaching anymore. In fact, Murphy Toth guessed right, Russell did it on purpose. But Murphy Toth can't say no. That's what Russell did. What about you, Murphy Toth? It can only be accepted silently. This is the strength of Russell. Russell has already earned enough power here, and he didn't stay here too long. After all, it's not doing Russell himself any good to push these two into a hurry. It is Russell's fine tradition to accept as soon as it is good. Russell put away his son, and leapt into the dimensional channel opened by Dormammu just now. Thank you for the hospitality. I'm leaving now. Don't send it away. Finally, the great plague god was sent away, and Russell really left the dark dimension. The figure gradually disappeared in the passage, and Dormammu and Mephitos breathed a sigh of relief. After this incident, Dormammu and Hedos will have nothing to do, at least for a short time. And after Russell returned to the holy place, Tony and others have already returned, obviously during the time he was in the dark dimension. Tony and the others had already dealt with those dark elves, almost unilaterally crushing them. To be honest, Tony had never encountered such a weak opponent. And this temper is still very strange. Obviously the strength is not very good, but there is no shortage of big words, and the effort is quite deep in the momentum. However, there is still a little advantage in momentum. They were soon beaten down by the Iron Mages, and returned to their hometown in desperation. Loki naturally also saw the scene of the Dark Elves being beaten back to their hometown. I can't believe it. Before Loki was worried that Tony's side would feel tricky, but looking at it now, it's also so easy it's hardly challenging. Although the Dark Elves were repulsed, Loki still had some lingering fears. He could see the aggressiveness of the Dark Elves just now, and in Loki's memory, he had always heard people around him tell him what happened to the Dark Elves. How cruel. No matter how powerful he is, he was beaten home without even two face-to-face encounters in front of Steel Mage on Russell's side. This is too far from the Dark Elf I imagined. Loki even began to doubt the authenticity of the identities of these Dark Elves. It's just that the characteristics of their appearance are proving that they are indeed Dark Elves, as well as the battleship behind them. From every corner, they are indeed the Dark Elves in Legendary, except that their strength is not very good. The rest of them fit Loki's vibe very well. After seeing Russell appearing in the holy place, Modu immediately stepped up and asked, "Supreme Mage, the Dark Elves have been repulsed. Are there casualties?" That's what Russell cares about. No, our mages are all wearing steel battlesuits, and those Dark Elves can't break through our defense at all. Only the black hole grenade was quickly thrown back by Pietro before it fell to our side. We have won this battle. As he spoke, Modu became excited. Although Mage's side was strong, it was indeed the first time for Modu to experience such an absolute victory. This feeling is really great. As if he is the king, standing at the top of the world. But these are all Mordo's own fantasies. In the final analysis, all these are the ideas of Supreme Mage. He also has a set of steel battlesuits. It has to be said that wearing this steel battlesuit, Modu felt like a dark elf standing in front of him. Even if you let him beat him, you may not be able to break this steel battlesuit. The defense of this steel battlesuit can be called against the sky. Russell is still very relaxed. Now Russell is in a very good mood. He just hit Dormammu and Murphy in one fell swoop. Now Thanos, the purple sweet potato essence, is full of variables. This guy has been coveting infinite gems and infinity gauntlet. If this purple sweet potato essence is not handled well, it will be a big change. However, Russell actually saw clearly some of Thanos' small actions. It's just that it's not the time to deal with purple sweet potato essence now. The most important thing now is to protect the dwarfs and build this Bifrost. This was obtained by Russell temporarily sacrificing the destroyer armor. Bifrost is a very important channel, which is still very important to Russell's layout. But Tony stood up. Supreme Mage, we just captured some black hole grenades. This thing can break through our armor. I think we can take advantage of this thing. As far as I am concerned, this thing is very buggy, and if it is modified, it should be very suitable for us. Tony was a little excited as he spoke. If this thing is used well, it is indeed a big killer. Tony has that kind of picture in his mind, that is, a black hole shoots out, and a group of enemies disappears in place. That kind of shock really made Tony addicted, but this technology is estimated to be very difficult. At least the technical staff of Wakanda must study it together. Tony alone is not enough, and if the transformation is going to be carried out, Tony will definitely not be able to support it alone. Some time ago, the steel battlesuit that Tony built for the mages almost went bankrupt. This transformation project is also a kind of money-burning project. But if it works, it's definitely a trump card. Russell listened to Tony's narration. This matter is left to you to do it, and Wakanda will fully support you. Wakanda's use of this technology is far better than Tony's. In particular, the use of vibranium has reached a state of ecstasy. Russell explained briefly, then looked at the reality gem in his hand. Russell could feel the powerful power of this red gem just by holding it in his hand. Legendary, the reality gem can alter reality, but it only needs the power of other gems. Definitely, Russell already has 3 infinite gems on him now. Facing some emergencies is still very relaxed, but Russell is still very worried about Thanos' actions. Although this guy is not a threat now, this purple sweet potato essence was originally an ambitious man. It can be seen from this guy's style of doing things, including the operation of sending Loki over. It is not something that ordinary people can do, although their weapons and equipment are relatively sophisticated now. Not worried when facing the enemy, but this Thanos is equally powerful. This guy's brain is very bright. It could be felt in the previous confrontation, but Russell, as the Supreme Mage, did not intend to fight him to the end. The world still needs some changes, just like it was before Ancient One. There was some reason why Ancient One chose not to ask about world affairs. The purpose is to let things develop naturally, and during Ancient One's tenure, nothing unpredictable happened in the universe. Now in the position of Supreme Mage, Russell can also understand the reason why Ancient One did what he did at that time. It's just that I and Ancient One have taken 2 completely different paths. Now that I have intervened, let things follow. With 3 infinite gems in hand, Russell is not worried about any big things happening. The Kree Empire, Odin's army has already returned, and Odin actually does not want to wipe out the Kree Empire. This attack was only to give the Kree Empire a disarm and suppress the Kree Empire. And after such a battle, it will be very difficult for the Kree Empire to turn around. Now Asgard and the Kree Empire are in balance again, and there is the variable Carol, and the 2 are united. The Kree Empire alone is irresistible, but Odin just wants to teach him a lesson. Let him settle down a bit, but in this battle, his own losses are not small, although the Kree Empire does not have any artifacts that can be used. But the Kree Empire has a lot of people. This number of people is the best weapon. It's like ants eating an elephant, although the effect is not great. But after all, you can feel the pain. If the ant is ruthless, it will be a big force. So Odin also stopped, and did not make any deeper attacks. And his alliance with Carol wasn't very strong, at least not as strong as he'd imagined. Now he is worried about Russell. After the Bifrost is built, it is still uncertain what unexpected things will happen to Russell. This Russell is different from the previous Supreme Mage Ancient One. This Ancient One has been quietly guarding the Earth. Where is it like this Russell, wandering around the world all day is an advantage, simply counting almost everywhere there is Russell. Definitely almost every time he returns with a full reward, it can be said that he earns a lot of money. Now he stole his destroyer armor and took away all the dwarfs. It made Odin very depressed, and Russell's move really made Odin lose his temper. He wanted to get angry, but what Russell did made Odin unable to grasp it at all. He was really dumb eating Coptus. It's hard to tell, and now Odin can only pray that Russell can do him some good, so that he doesn't suffer so badly. It's just that he doesn't know that Russell has taken the Tesseract he hid on Earth. If Odin knew, he would have vomited blood and died. Dark Dimension. Dormammu at the moment was glaring at Murphy Toth, who was recovering aside. Murphy Toss. What do you mean? Did you deliberately mess with me? Didn't you say that the Supreme Mage would not find me? Isn't he not in the holy place? Then how did he find me? How did he find here? Murphy Toss felt so aggrieved now, It was true that Russell was not in the holy place before, and went to deal with those dark elves. But Murphy Toss himself didn't think that the dark elf would not be able to survive even 1 or 2 face-to-face encounters in front of Russell's Iron Mage. The battle ended too quickly, and the difference in strength was too great, which caused Russell to return directly to the holy place, and then found Dormammu who was drilling the tunnel. All of this is what Murphy Toss didn't expect, but the strength of those dark elves is indeed very good. This is something that Murphy Toss can't understand no matter how he thinks about it. Why does this dark elf look like paper in front of Russell's Iron Mage? And as far as Murphy Toss knows, the dark elf also has a special weapon, the black hole grenade, which is definitely a big killer if it is used well. It's just that this thing doesn't seem to be doing what it's supposed to. Suddenly, Murphy remembered the 2 little guys before, the 2 little guys he was interested in, one awakening origin magic power. An awakening has a speed ability, so it makes sense that the effect of the black hole grenade does not work. With this boy with super speed, the probability that this black hole grenade can work is close to 0. Now Murphy Toss has found the problem, which is the problem of these 2 little guys who just awakened their power. He still feels that the steel battlesuit that Russell arranged for the mages is not very good, but for Murphy Toth, these steel battlesuits are really not very powerful things. Enough. Murphy Toth, are you using me as a weapon? I tell you Murphy Toth, you must pay me. Dormammu at the moment rage, was crushed so badly by Russell just now, and now Phytos, who told him the news, is making sarcastic remarks here again. This directly made Dormammu explode. You know the situation is good. I have lost a lot now too. Murphy Toss waved his hand to Dormammu. Look, I'm almost the same as you. My strength is almost exhausted. So what? My dark dimension is about to disappear. Okay. I shouldn't be discussing this here. The most urgent thing is to find a way to make up for our losses. As he said that, Murphy Toss showed some special light on his face. Asgard, Odin is sitting helpless on the throne, and now it hurts the Kree Empire. But his own losses were not small, and what bothered Odin the most was that the dwarfs were abducted to Earth by Russell. This is what bothers Odin the most. These ungrateful dwarfs really just followed Russell. It's a shame I protected them for so long. As a result, I just left as soon as I said it. There is really no news at all. The more Odin thought about it on the throne, the more he became angry, and Thor, his highness, seemed to see that the father on the throne was a little angry. Father, don't worry, now that we have scared the Kree Empire, they should be safe and sound in a short time. It's just that before Thor finished his sentence, Odin directly reprimanded him. What do you know? If you had half the wisdom of Carol we wouldn't be so passive. It's really driving me crazy. How can you let me hand over Asgard to you with confidence? The Thor who said it was stunned, completely unaware of what happened, so he said a word. Inexplicably, he was scolded by Odin, but Thor had no way to refute. He could only bite the bullet and get scolded, and then resign in desperation. Regarding what happened to Thor, the subordinates beside him could only sigh secretly. After all, Thor was really miserable. There is really no way to hit Odin's muzzle. Just like that sentence, look for scolding. Kamar Taj. Russell is studying his own small universe, which has been blessed by the power of Dormammu and Murphy before. Russell's small universe has grown to a large scale, but these forces still need a little time to refine. It will take a while to transform into the power of the small universe itself, but after that, this small universe will definitely surprise Russell. Russell has that premonition. This small universe is definitely more than that. Thinking of this, Russell couldn't hide the smile on Russell's face. How comfortable it was to look at this small universe. But he suddenly remembered Quicksilver and Wanda, before he thought Pietro's ability was a bit tasteless. After all, this speed is not worth mentioning in front of some powerful enemies. However, this battle has highlighted his advantages. Maybe he can think of other ways to use his ability. This is a very good road, but there must be many obstacles on this road. Because this Pietro awakening ability fundamentally does not strengthen his own body, just speeding up is not enough. Physical strength and so on all need to keep up with the rhythm. And now Pietro obviously has not reached that step, which means he still has a long way to go. And it will be extremely difficult. No one can help him, and the only thing he can rely on is himself. Even someone as strong as Russell can't make Pietro stronger directly. All he can do is to give Pietro some insight. And Wanda has a high degree of plasticity. If her origin magic power is used well, it can destroy everything. Compared with other magic powers, this origin magic power is like the feeling of a father meeting his son. Not at the same level at all, although Wanda's strength is not enough now. But given time, the achievements will definitely not be small. All Wanda needs now is the right guidance, which Russell will surely do well. At least that's what Russell needs to guarantee. But now my own small universe has begun to slowly operate. Although Russell still needs to provide a thrust, this is much better than the beginning. Although there is still a long way to go from success, this is a good start. Dormammu and Murphy Toth provide little more power, but also less. After all, the two of them can also be regarded as Dimension Mephisto, and their own strength is quite good. After absorbing a wave of their power, Russell's own power also got strengthening. Now Russell can't directly extract the power of the small universe, until the small universe has enough power to run on its own. That's when Russell became a whole new existence. It's just that this process is still very long. If you want to expand your own small universe, the fastest and most effective way is to swallow a planet directly. But Russell looked and looked and looked and looked on the star map, but couldn't find a suitable planet. Either there are higher life forms on the planet, or the planet is not originally good. After thinking about it, Russell only came up with one solution. That is to suck a certain planet into one's own small universe, although it sounds a bit unrealistic. But this method seems to be the most appropriate method at present. In this way, these planets can choose some planets with lower life forms and absorb them into their own small universe. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Then they can still carry out their evolution, originally unaffected, and Russell can mobilize these powers again. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone, which is much better than directly devouring this planet. But now I haven't encountered that kind of planet that is on the verge of shattering. Devouring that kind of planet is the best choice. It can also ensure the stability of the universe, because if the planet collapses, there will be a big bang in the universe. It affects the stability of the surrounding universe, and then affects the stability of the entire universe. This point was thought of by Russell early on, but there is no such planet at this stage. However, there are quite a few planets of such low-level creatures, but Russell is still facing a problem. It's just that if you want to suck the planet into your own small universe, you still need a strong thrust. Or provide suction to the small universe. Both are methods, but both consume a lot of energy. However, the small universe itself can also provide part of the suction. After much deliberation, Russell still decided to use suction. After selecting the planet, Russell teleported directly to the periphery of the planet. Then he began to summon his own small universe, and soon, the space around Russell began to fluctuate, even a little shattered. But it wasn't very serious, just a little bit, and the surrounding space soon stabilized. Russell's small universe at the moment has also begun to operate, and Russell has also used the power of infinite gems. It is slowly transported to the small universe, and the suction of the small universe is also slowly increasing. The planet at the moment that Russell selected before also began to move in the direction of Russell, but now the speed is very slow. Because there is still gravitational force nearby, these forces are still pulling the planet to move in its original orbit. Now Russell is forcibly pulling this planet out, which requires a lot of power. Fortunately, Russell has infinite gems, although there are only 3, but this is enough for Russell to pull this planet into the small universe. Things went smoothly, and the planet was pulled in smoothly. Russell, who just took this planet into his arms, was very excited, even a little crazy. The moment he obtained that planet, Russell felt that his whole person seemed to have changed. Becoming hungry for power, but just for a split second, Russell regained his sanity. After regaining his senses, Russell was still afraid of what happened just now. This is probably not a good thing. Russell didn't feel this way before. Obviously, this is the consequence of some kind of force. It's like Ancient One draws life from the dark dimension, if it is not operated properly or the will is not firm. Will fall into the abyss. Just the moment, Russell understood. This is probably the thing behind a powerful force, but Russell is not very afraid of this kind of thing. To him, these things are nothing at all. Just like what Ancient One Mage did before, gain power, but not be captured by power. Power does not distinguish between light and darkness, and it is only when users use that power to do evil that people feel that this power is evil. Russell was not overwhelmed by the power of the situation, on the contrary, he used it to his advantage. In some emergency moments, if this force breaks out, it will definitely be a big boost. This can also be used as a back move, which is a very good means. New York, Trident Building. Shield. Looking at the dots of light that suddenly disappeared on the screen, Nick Fury fell into deep thought. When he was just working, this happened once, a spot of light disappeared. It represents the disappearance of a planet, but no planet has collapsed recently. That is to say, the planet disappeared naturally. Nick Fury couldn't help but think of the planet Devourer who disappeared back then. Did you come back again? Nick Fury looked at the stars in the sky and said to himself. Nick Fury also feels that the planet Devourer is back. The planet Devourer disappeared suddenly after devouring 3 planets. Then there was no news for many years, and no one knew where he went, but everyone was always on guard. It's just that the planet Devourer seems to appear very strange this time, without any trace or sign. It can be said that the equipment of S.H.I.E.L.D. did not play the slightest role. Very helpless, Nick Fury still wanted to tell the Supreme Mage Russell about this situation. Just thinking of the Tongtian magic of Supreme Mage, it is estimated that they already knew the situation. Even more than Nick Fury knows. Thinking of this, Luke Fury immediately gave up the investigation of the planet Devourer. When it comes to things at that level, to be honest, the current human beings are simply not enough to handle these things. The most important thing now is to let Tony Mage successfully join the League of the Worried Fathers, and now Spider-Man has not agreed to join the League of the Worried Fathers. In fact, Spider-Man can also join the League of Worried Fathers, but the premise is that there must be Tony Stark in the League of Worried Fathers. But the question now is that Tony is now Mage, how should Nick get Tony to join? It's a tough question, and right now Tony's focus is entirely off business. The whole person is completely immersed in the world of magic, but Nick Fury has a good idea. He thought of Pioneer Technology. According to the investigation, this group has been investigating Tony Stark and his Stark Industries recently. And began to imitate the things of Stark Industry, and then used lower prices to seize market share. This is blatantly grabbing Stark Industries' business. It's just that now Tony basically doesn't care about business matters, and all these things are handed over to Xiaojiao to manage. Nick Fury's calculations have been made, and this is a very good opportunity, a chance for Tony Stark to join the League of Worried Fathers. This Russell, we can't fawn, and this Tony, we can always fawn. The agents are already familiar with Nick Fury's hard-licking behavior. In this day and age, you can't do without licking. In this day and age, if you don't hug your thighs quickly, it will be a problem how the father-sensational alliance will continue. This League of Worried Fathers has been established for so long, and there is still only Nick Fury himself as a polished commander. That's enough to explain the problem, so Nick Fury also thought about it, as long as he can recruit these people. There is nothing wrong with using Duan Yi himself with some unconventional skills. There are also those 2 orphans, if they can also be absorbed into the Alliance of Worried Fathers, that will be a great help. At that time, the Alliance of Worried Fathers could be regarded as on the right track. Okay, let's get started. Nick Fury simply arranged the task. The agents immediately dispersed to perform tasks. Only Nick Fury is left to think about life in the base camp. The current situation is an opportunity for Nick Fury. It depends on whether the League of Fearful Fathers can rise, as long as Tony Stark can be brought in. That's all. It's like a stepping stone, and Nick Fury understands it. Among the 9 worlds, in a starfield of dead silence. The Dark Elf who had just appeared in front of Russell's Iron Mage is here to heal his wounds intensively. After the first battle just now, the damage of the Dark Elves can be said to be very huge. The Dark Elves have survived for so many years, even in its heyday. None of them suffered such an overwhelming defeat. This failure was directly crushed by Russell's Steel Mage. Even the black hole grenade was useless, and the pace of the entire group was directly stuck. This failure can be said to be unprecedented. Malekith, Lord of the Dark Elves, sat trembling with rage on his throne. He never dreamed that the road to regain TIE particles would be so difficult. They were directly crushed just after they met, and there was no room for maneuver at all. This made the always proud Malekith a little unacceptable. Damn. Who will tell me what is going on? Why is the enemy so strong? Who will tell me why? Malekith roared angrily, and looked at the generals kneeling below him. You guys, come and explain to me what's going on. Several generals looked at Malekith, the king of the Dark Elves, who was furious, and did not dare to vent their anger. They lowered their heads and listened quietly to Malekith's reprimand. If this kind of thing happens again, I will lock you all into the abyss and hell for self-reflection. The generals trembled a little when they heard the words abyss and hell. It can be seen how shocked these 4 words were to them. In fact, it wasn't that they were too shocked, it was indeed that the name of this abyss hell was too loud. The people who entered Legendary were almost not in human form when they came out. There are a group of evil spirits in Legendary. Definitely the generals have not seen it, but the people who came out of it, without exception. I mentioned what they saw in the abyss hell. Immediately he became crazy, and his eyes widened, as if recalling something terrible. You must know that the race of dark elves is that kind of fierce and brutal, but even they are like this. It can be seen how terrifying the things in this abyss hell are. Your Majesty, let's find a way, and we will find a way soon. Several generals said to Malekith at the moment. It can be seen that they are very afraid of the abyss hell. Okay, if you can't come up with a solution, go to the abyss hell by yourself. After all the generals went down, Malekith propped up his chin. The brilliance of TIE particles appeared in my mind again. The bloodthirsty in the eyes is also more shining. Extreme Mage, Russell, just wait, I will definitely take back the TIE particles. Kamar Taj. Inside the magic holy place. Russell, who just returned, is preparing to direct Wanda's origin magic power. This origin magic power Russell must be taught throughout. This origin magic power is no better than other kinds of magic. Origin magic power will mutate itself if it is not careful. Moreover, this kind of mutation is uncontrollable, and it may develop in a bad direction or in a good direction. These are all determined by Wanda originally, but now Wanda cannot flexibly control its own mutations. You have to learn to control yourself. You cannot be controlled by power. You are the leader of power. You must understand this. Russell tirelessly said to Wanda, and Wanda listened very carefully. But Quicksilver on the side is different, he has been doing physical exercise. Tony also quickly customized a set of steel battlesuits for him, which is definitely different from the steel mages. This was designed by Tony himself for Quicksilver, and the whole battlesuit was completely made according to Pietro's figure. In order to maximize his speed, the entire battlesuit uses extremely lightweight materials. It not only ensures the firmness of the battlesuit, but also ensures the weight, so that Pietro becomes much stronger. Since you want to be fast, you should be as fast as possible, so fast that the enemy can't catch it. This is Russell's idea, and at this stage, Pietro is only suitable for such an approach. There is no other way for Russell to improve Pietro's strength here. But even so, Pietro is very happy, which is much better than their previous life in the slums. And the strength has become so strong, to be honest, Pietro never dreamed that he would have such a day. Seeing Wanda who was practicing to control Chaos Force, Russell smiled knowingly. This Wanda's ability to the origin magic power is really not covered, it's just such a short practice. This brings a whole new dimension to the manipulation of magic, even as Wanda wields it. Russell can still have some insights. Looking at the origin magic power, a lot of ideas flashed in Russell's mind. But Russell thought about it, and suddenly disappeared from the spot, leaving only Wanda still comprehending his own state just now. Russell actually teleported directly into a silent space, where there was no sound and no one would disturb him. It is the same nature as the small black house, but it is more secretive than the small black house, and even the coordinates change in real time. It's the same as the orientation of the previous dwarf family, except that they move the coordinates manually. And Russell's is to automatically change the orientation, but the space is not very large. Russell came here just to see the progress of his own small universe, after the energy given by Dormammu and Toss before. Russell's small universe has undergone changes, it is no longer as lifeless as before, and has begun to slowly become active. In addition to the newly inhaled planet, although it did not directly swallow the planet, after the planet entered Russell's small universe. It is running on its own, and can provide power to the small universe itself. After this period of reaction, the overall picture of the small universe can be explained a lot brighter. And the previous planet at the moment has developed into higher organisms, just like the previous Earth. It's just that there are still too few things in the small universe, except for the slightly brighter areas of the planet. Everything else was completely dark. The power absorbed before only expanded the file size of the small universe, and no planets have yet been generated by themselves. This is what Russell is worried about. In order for planets to appear, some collisions must occur appropriately, which requires strength. In the final analysis, it is still a lack of power to make the entire small universe work. The energy required is not a little bit, at least the little power contributed by Dormammu and Murphy is far from enough. This point will not change. It will take a long time for the small universe to operate normally. Wakanda. Tony was looking at the armor in his hand with joy. On the left hand of the armor, there was an extra circle of hidden missiles. These missiles are very petite and pure black, but the aura emanating from them makes people feel a little frightened. Tony fired a missile towards the shooting target, and the moment it touched the target, A black hole suddenly appeared in the entire area where the shooting target was located, sucking everything around the shooting target almost in the blink of an eye. There is no trace at all, and in the blink of an eye, the shooting target area is directly emptied. The effect really surprised Tony. After the dismantling test, Tony successfully disassembled the black hole grenade of the Dark Elf with the help of Wakanda's technology. Then such a ratio was obtained after testing the ratio. This is the first time to test the finished product. The result is that such an area is completely emptied in such a single shot. To be honest, Tony has never seen such power. If such a missile can be successfully produced. After these few missiles pass by in the future, I am afraid that there will be an extra space in the world. This kind of thing absolutely cannot appear on the Earth, but it can exist in other places. It's just that these are just some models, and the real material is the black hole grenade of the Dark Elves. Tony can't make black hole material by himself, and Wakanda can't now. The only source is some black hole grenades captured from the Dark Elves. But obviously these black hole grenades can't make many missiles at all. So Tony came up with another piece of equipment, and that was another piece of equipment, the black hole shield. Simply put, it is to use this created black hole to resist attacks. Although it sounds a bit unbelievable, but if it is used, black holes can indeed be used in this way, and the energy consumption will be greatly reduced. The black hole grenade looks very powerful, but the utilization rate of this black hole grenade is really not high. To put it bluntly, it is a bit wasteful. In the previous test, this black hole can directly make a hole out of a man. The ground beneath has been sucked away, so there's really no need for that. Wouldn't it be nice to have the energy to do something else? After some rectification by Tony, the previous black hole grenade can be split into 4 black hole missiles. This utilization rate can be said to be very good. The defensive black hole was shaped like a shield by Tony, using a black hole battery to support the formation of the black hole. In this way, the utilization rate is also greatly improved. At the moment Tony was looking at the black hole and laughing. This kind of power is indeed powerful enough, but those very dark elves didn't use it well. In addition, there was Pietro, who was like a bug on Tony's side at the time, and his existence was the nightmare of these grenades. In actual combat, Pietro threw him back before falling to the steel mages. In this way, the dark elves lost a group of people. Thinking of this, Tony continued to study the matter of the black hole. Russell's figure also quietly appeared behind Tony. "How's the research going, Tony?" "Very well, now the improvement of the black hole grenade has been basically completed. I am trying to see if I can analyze the composition of the black hole matter." Tony quickly uttered a lot of proper nouns, and Russell said it was a big head. He waved his hand and said, "Tony, take your time, don't worry, just pay attention to safety, this black hole is not a joke." "Hey, I understand, I have experience in doing this." Tony smiled at Russell and continued to immerse himself in research. Russell turned around, drew a circle, and arrived at Bifrost in an instant. From the looks of it, Bifrost is almost finished. It's just that there are still some details that have not been fully settled, and the general structure has been stabilized. The dwarfs were still rushing to work day and night. Ikui also sensed Russell's arrival, and turned to look at Russell. "You are here, Supreme Mage. How is the progress of Bifrost now?" "I think it is almost the same." "No, it's not finished yet. When will it be finished?" "Soon. It's almost time. It's almost time again." Russell's whole body exploded. He felt that this dwarf must be delaying time. Deliberately slowing down the speed, this seems to be almost finished. It's just that Russell didn't know that Ikui deliberately slowed down the speed. He felt that if he did this, there would definitely be complaints from Asgard. But the situation at that time was really scary. The army of the Kree Empire was pressing down on the border, and Odin's support was obviously unable to keep up. There is only Supreme Mage around, and the name of Supreme Mage is quite famous. That's why I decided to come here without much hesitation. But in retrospect, Ikui didn't think about Big Brother Odin at all. But at that time, Ikui Guang remembered to protect the safety of the tribe, and did not think of that relationship. That's why Ikui wanted to slow down the progress a bit, and staying here for one more day would be a safe day. No one will come to make trouble, and he also heard that the relationship between Odin and Supreme Mage is pretty good. It's still pretty good here in Supreme Mage. After coming out of Wakanda, Russell thought of purple sweet potato essence. This guy sent Loki here, obviously wanting to know Russell's whereabouts. Russell simply followed his plan, making the purple sweet potato essence completely confused about what he was going to do. If you want infinite gems, it's probably only a dream. At the moment Thanos has just returned to the Kree Empire. It has just passed the impact of Odin's troops and is undergoing intense repairs. This before Thanos came to the palace. Now our offensive pace is contained. Of course I know this. They all feel that we dare not take any action. However, we just want to take a gamble and continue our hegemony. It's just that our actions must be relatively secretive. Ronan said. What's going on with Loki? Is there any news coming back? The Supreme Mage has just repelled the Dark Elves, completely crushed, and they seem to have put on a kind of protective clothing. Ronan said. I heard that the Dark Elves didn't even penetrate this layer of protective clothing. It seems that we need to get this kind of protective clothing, no matter what method is used. Listening to Ronan's words, Thanos also felt the importance of this protective suit. This kind of defense can make the group of mages have so many sets. Looks like something. Asgard. Hall. Odin is talking to Russell's Phantom. Russell, when will Iqui and the others be able to build Bifrost? I'm also in a hurry to get this armor. They said soon. As for the armor, don't you have armor now? That set of destroyer armor. Russell's expression was natural. As if this thing is his, but to some extent it is his. But Odin is different. This destroyer armor is his own. Now it is claimed by Russell that it belongs to him. And I have no way to refute it. I am really a dumb person who eats Coptus. I can't tell the pain. How about this? You just take the destroyer armor, and I'll ask IQI to make a set of armor for me directly. Look. This saves you from running around. How nice it is. As he spoke, Russell stroked his hair very naturally. Odin looked at Russell in front of him and was really a little dizzy. Forget it. Forget it, the old man won't argue. Then Iqui should return to his previous place. It depends on Iqui's plan, mainly depends on his plan. As he spoke, Russell smiled confidently. This smile made Odin understand that this Russell must have used some method to tie Iqui to his side. That's the little brother I've been covering for N years. If you say no, it's gone. It's really a white-eyed wolf. Although Odin has 10,000 grass mud horses galloping in his heart, he can't directly attack in the open. Well then, it depends on his wishes. Now Odin understood that Russell was determined to keep the Itri clan with him. When he said this, he definitely couldn't say anything to bring Iqui back. No matter how your own army is, it's not as fast as Russell's direct drawing of big cakes. This is directly an inherent advantage. No matter what happens to Odin, this transmission is even faster. Now it depends on whether Iqui is righteous or not. After all, he has protected his dwarf clan for so many years. You can't say that you can just change players, but Odin has no confidence. Because Iqui didn't even have any hesitation at that time, Russell invited him to Earth. Iqui immediately agreed, although the environment at that time was a bit threatening. Let's take a hesitation anyway. Now Odin can be said to have lost his wife and lost his army. Big loss. But now I can only smash my teeth and swallow it in my stomach. Now that the Kree Empire has been repulsed by him, now is the best time to recover. Without the interference of external forces, with Asgard's background, it is still very fast to return to the peak state. It will be the beginning of a new era. But by chance, Odin remembered the Tesseract he had hidden on Earth before. This thing must never be discovered. The power of these infinite gems is too powerful. Now there are quite a few gems that have been revealed, including Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet. Although he is a pirated product, his ambition is already exposed. Now the battle for infinite gems is about to begin. Must speed up to get back to top condition. Russell's figure slowly disappeared, and Odin also breathed a sigh of relief, although he had lost a lot. But they are all minor injuries, except for the dwarfs, others are minor problems. The most important thing now is to recover quickly. Thor, who had been waiting outside the temple, called Odin to his side. Father. Thor, my son, now I have a very important task to teach you, and you must complete it well. Seeing Odin's appearance, Thor was a little excited. His father finally assigned him an important task. Hearing this sentence, Thor replied excitedly, "Don't worry, father. Where are you going to lay down?" As a result, as soon as Odin heard Thor's words, he fell asleep with a punch. You reckless man. I'll let you go to military training. Clean up Asgard. Why do you still want to fight? Look at what our soldiers have become. You still want to fight. You can't be like Ms. Carroll. It's really going to piss me off. Let everyone in Asgard live a better life first. After Odin finished speaking, he left angrily, and Queen Frigga looked at Thor. Shaking his head, Thor, you should reflect on yourself and see what you should do. How to do it as a wise king. Frigga left after speaking, leaving Thor alone here. Think quietly. Ms. Carroll. I'm a man. Why should I look at a woman? Could it be that? Thor thought about it and thought of the crooked place. Inside the magic holy place, Mordo just came back from the port of New York. Just now, he met the agent sent by S.H.I.E.L.D. Their meaning is very clear: in order to enhance the self-preservation ability of the Earth. S.H.I.E.L.D. has set up a League of Fearful Fathers and wants to invite Tony to join. I just wanted Tony to join, and Mordo couldn't be the master. The only way is to come back and find Supreme Mage Russell first. Find Tony again and ask them. Russell at the moment also came over with a dazed Tony. Seeing Tony's appearance, the agent was a little surprised. Tony at the moment, who was so beautiful before, was unshaven. It's as if it just came out of some kind of ravine. He didn't understand why Tony came here, although he had heard some news about magic. But I haven't seen it with my own eyes, I just saw some abilities. So they call those who haven't seen them supernatural powers. So they don't really care about the title of Supreme Mage. But Tony Stark's name is well known on Earth. At the moment, he came here only to invite Tony Stark to join the League of Worried Fathers. Others, as well as the previous Wanda and Pietro, will also be invited. Tony saw that this person was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Immediately his face turned cold. Refused. Then he turned and left. But just as Tony turned around to leave home, Nick Fury appeared. What if S.H.I.E.L.D. was actually founded by your father? Tony froze when he heard Nick Fury's words. He turned around slowly and asked. What did you just say? I said, what if S.H.I.E.L.D. was founded by your father? Listening to Nick Fury's words, Tony was a little dazed. Now Tony's Stark industry can be said to be left to him by his father. Now hearing his father from someone else again, Tony felt a little kind in his heart. But Tony looked at Russell, as if asking for Russell's opinion. But Russell waved his hand and said to Tony, it depends on you. Anyway, you joined the League of Fathers, and you are still the master here. Hearing Russell's words, Tony looked at Nick Fury. He still had some resistance to this agent organization. Okay, but don't take it too far, I need my freedom. This is no problem, as long as you can come back when there is a task. Listening to Nick Fury's words, Tony was a little upset. In fact, Tony is just like this, he doesn't like constraints. I like to be alone, even when I do research, I am almost alone. But because of his father, Tony still nodded, but everyone present could see Tony's reluctance. It's just that everyone didn't speak. Tony didn't say much, and went back to continue his research silently. Nick Fury also left here with the agents. Only Mordo and Russell watched them here without speaking. To be honest, Russell really wants Tony to join the League of Worried Fathers, and there are some things that Tony must complete. No one else can replace him, but with Tony's incomparable brain, I believe no one in the world can beat him in terms of brainpower. Even Russell can't claim to be better than Tony in this area. Mordo looked at Russell. He said lightly, if Tony can go to the League of Worried Fathers, it will be much easier to protect the Earth. I definitely know this, but this matter mainly depends on Tony's attitude. I feel that Tony still wants to go, after all, one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. is Tony's father. That's right, it depends on what he thinks. What should Loki do? This guy doesn't feel very simple, and now his position is very vague. Don't worry about this, no matter what he is, Loki was brought up by Odin, there is no doubt about it. Russell said confidently. Don't worry, Loki will definitely not tell the truth to Thanos. Although he is very strategic, but now they are doing things under our noses. No matter what you do, you can't break any waves. And Russell said as he remembered the small universe that the system checked in, and now the small universe has expanded a lot compared to before. And there are some small planet belts appearing, which is a windfall for Russell's small universe. With a small planet, the planet is not far away. What this small universe needs now is more energy, and these alone are still not enough. Russell is also thinking about whether to go to Dormammu or Murphy to plunder some power. But after thinking about it, it's still not suitable. I just pumped out the power of others. Now I'm going to do something again, which is a bit of a rush to put ducks on the shelves. It's okay to take advantage of a little bit in daily life, but if it's expanding, then the situation changed. As the saying goes, rabbits bite people when they are in a hurry, let alone two behemoths. I'm going to really annoy them, and I'm afraid Russell won't get any benefits if they come to death. After thinking about it, Russell can only be a planet devourer again, although the devoured planets are far away from the Earth. It has almost no impact on the Earth, but the people who monitor it are still very panicked. After all, this kind of power will never appear on the Earth, let alone accept it. People are often afraid of the unknown, so when they see that light spot disappear again, they got really scared, especially Nick Fury, who went on a recruiting spree, and it wasn't just Tony. Spider-Man, Hawkeye, and the Widow also joined the group, as did Dr. Banner. Although his ability is not very stable now, Dr. Banner has been able to control the Green Titan very freely in most cases. Moreover, after becoming a Green Titan, will retain a bit of sanity, and will not become a big man who only knows how to use brute force. In this case, the combat effectiveness will definitely be greatly improved. Asgard. In the hall, Odin sits on the throne, Thor is in his royal highness, with his head bowed, and Odin is in charge of Thor on the throne. You reckless man. Reckless man. Do you only think about fighting and killing? Do you know what a wise gentleman should do? It's not fighting and killing. It is to let the people live and work in peace and contentment. This is the foundation of a country. Now, get the hell out of here. Odin blushed with anger. This Thor really only has war in his mind, so let him train Asgard. As a result, in the middle of the practice, Ms. Carroll just came. After that battle, Ms. Carroll paid close attention to Thor's growth for some reason. And after seeing Carroll coming, Thor also changed his previous appearance, chatting with Ms. Carroll without saying a word. But Ms. Carroll has already seen through Thor's thoughts, and she really has the same virtue as his father Odin. Odin mentioned this method of kissing and kissing before, but he didn't agree to it at the time. Originally, I saw that Thor was a little more honest and easy to get along with than his father, but he turned out to be an old fritter. This immediately lowered the impression score, although the alliance between the two is still there. But Ms. Carroll was obviously a lot colder, which is why Odin was so angry. In fact, whoever heard the news would not be in a good mood, let alone Odin, who has a bad temper. And he often likes to give Thor a bad name. This time, Thor happened to hit the muzzle of the gun again. I will banish you this time. Do it for yourself. Odin said as he raised the eternal spear in his hand. Now, go to the land of exile and practice hard. Speaking of a flash of lightning, Thor was directly blasted into the vortex. Seeing Thor's figure disappear, Odin slowly returned to the throne and sat down, while Frigga watched Thor's figure disappear. Some distressed said, "Is it really good to do this? The only way to do this now is to make him grow up faster. He is still too young to know the cruelty of this world. And the current state of Asgard can't let Thor go on." Odin said slowly, took a deep breath. Frigg also walked to Odin's side, and patted his shoulder lightly. With the aging god king and the young and energetic new generation, Asgard probably has a lot to experience. Earth. On a wasteland, a ray of light suddenly descended from the sky, and when the light gradually disappeared, a man appeared out of thin air in the center. This person looked very burly, but the tattered clothes on his body showed that he was not from here. And he appeared out of thin air. It just so happened that a woman was taking photos of the light here, and accidentally knocked him down while driving a car. The woman immediately called an ambulance. Kamar Taj. On the holy place, Russell looked at Thor, who was being carried into the ambulance through the aperture, and smiled. It seems that the alliance of the fathers is going to be assembled. Russell still has some expectations for the Worried Fathers League, if recruited like Nick Fury. The combat power of this League of Worried Fathers is still very impressive. Definitely another important point is the teamwork among the players. This is still very important. They are not like Russell, the Supreme Mage, who can handle almost everything by himself. On the other side, Thor just woke up, and was knocked down by his father before. Before he could react, he suffered a violent impact, and then lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I was already in this strange place. Everything here is so strange to him. Moreover, his divine power seemed to have disappeared, and now Thor was alone. Suddenly he was a little flustered, and when he waved, Mjolnir, who was always waving, didn't respond now. Now Thor panicked. He hadn't taken Odin's words to heart before. Until this time, he felt panic for the first time. At the moment, Russell also came down to earth, but he didn't reveal his identity. Instead, he looked at Thor from a distance, and Russell basically knew what Odin wanted to do. Thor is still too young now, when dealing with some things. The performance is very aggressive, which is not the quality that a wise king should have, and Odin threw this Thor to the earth this time. I'm afraid the secret meaning is to let myself secretly pay attention to Thor's safety. Odin, old and treacherous guy, must know that he has been paying attention, so it seems reasonable to do so directly. And on the other hand, Thor's Mjolnir at the moment has also fallen to earth. At the moment no one has found him, he is in a wilderness, but someone is already driving here. Russell teleported to the crash site first, looking at Mjolnir who was close at hand. Russell slowly stretched out his hand, held it on Mjolnir, and lifted it up slowly. Although this Mjolnir has some weight, it is still lifted. Odin also just placed an oracle on Mjolnir. Anyone who is qualified can lift it up, and then he can have the power of Thor. When Odin said this, Russell heard it, but now he actually raised Mjolnir. Doesn't this mean that he was recognized by Mjolnir? For a moment Russell was a little confused. How did Mjolnir lift it up? Russell tried to guide the thunderbolt, but unexpectedly, the moment he lifted it up, the thunderbolt was guided on Mjolnir. Suddenly there was lightning and thunder, and the people on the road all looked at the vision in the sky. All the lightning seemed to hit the crash point just now, but this lightning was very strange. It didn't seem like the lightning had struck naturally at all. It's more like being attracted. There seems to be something attracting thunder and lightning. This vision was also posted on the internet for the first time. For a time, there was a lot of discussion on the internet. What is this? Someone crossed the catastrophe. Is this a crashed lightning rod? Can that trigger lightning? It's awesome, I'll go and have a look. Trident building. Shield, Nick Fury got the news immediately, and now the agent is investigating this matter. This incident was too strange, but fortunately, it did not have any impact on the lives of ordinary people. This time the crash site was also in the suburbs, where no one lived. This is actually very good. After Russell raised the hammer, he put it back in place, and then went straight back to where Thor was just now. Russell thought it was better for Thor to lift the hammer himself. If nothing else, Thor is no longer recognized by the hammer, and now Thor lacks a spirit. Russell returned to the place just now, and he found that Thor from at the moment was squatting on the ground, not knowing what he was thinking. The people from the hospital also came out to take Thor back, and Nick Fury had already sent an agent here. Meanwhile Nick Fury himself has been here. Now he has been able to confirm who is coming, the big pit where he crashed before, and lightning. Only one person can create them all, and that is Thor. It's just that Nick Fury didn't know that Mjolnir was taken away by Russell, and he always thought that Thor took Mjolnir away. Nick Fury also came here to recruit Thor into the League of Worried Fathers. It's just that when he saw Thor, he was a little strange. At the moment, Thor was lying on the bed with blank eyes. I don't know what I was thinking. I watched Nick Fury and some agents coming in differently. You are Thor, the big hammer from before is your weapon, right? As Nick Fury spoke, he took out a photo from his clothes. This photo was taken just now, and it was taken by the agent who had already arrived there. Thor casually glanced at the photo, caught sight of Mjolnir, and immediately sat up. Where is it? Where is it? Calm down. You need to rest now. Wait until you recover for a while. With that said, Nick Fury left the ward. He felt that this person was like a child, just a few words, Nick Fury felt it. The current him is probably not suitable for lifting the hammer. Russell looked at Thor who was in a daze in the ward and didn't know what he was thinking. Some heads are big, this Odin really gave him a problem. How should Thor teach himself? This is indeed a difficult problem. After thinking about it, a person appeared in Russell's mind. Quicksilver Pietro. Maybe he is more suitable to guide this silly big man. Kamar Taj. At the moment Wanda was talking to Pietro. It's really like a dream, it's like waking up and we're back in the ghetto. It's as if none of this exists. Pietro laughed when he heard Wanda's words. It's really like a dream, I don't know what to say, it just feels a little magical. There are even more amazing ones, haha. While the two were talking, Russell's hearty laughter came from behind the two. The two turned their heads at the same time, just in time to see Russell approaching them with a smile. It seems that you two practiced well. It's not bad, it's still in some respects. Wanda was very humble, looked at Russell and said. Pietro, how about it, I'll give you a task, you must complete it, this task is very important. Russell suddenly said seriously, completely different from the smiling one just now. Listen, now, Thor has lived on the earth, but now he has been hit a bit hard. How about you help him regain his confidence? Hearing Russell's sudden serious tone, Pietro was also a little nervous. In the end, Pietro got a little cocky when he heard that he was just trying to help Thor regain his confidence. Isn't that easy? I can do it in minutes. Okay. Then I will wait for your good news. Don't come back until you complete the task. Russell also gave Pietro a death order. Pietro nodded directly, indicating that he heard it. After that, he entered the teleportation circle that Russell had just drawn. After Pietro entered, Wanda looked to Russell. "This matter is not that simple, is it, teacher?" Russell turned around, sighed, and said lightly, "You know, Pietro needs to work on it, and Thor needs to work on it too. You are still too weak now. If a truly powerful enemy comes, you will only become a dragging existence. As my apprentice of Russell, you can't do this, you need to be stronger," and this time Odin threw Thor to the earth. The reason is probably to let Thor hone his skills. He will inherit Odin's position in the future, and Odin naturally cannot be sloppy. Listening to Russell's words, Wanda watched Pietro arrive in New York and fell into deep thought. "Okay, it's time for us to practice. Let's practice the origin magic power from before." Kree Empire, Hall, Ronan is discussing the next step with Thanos. "I think we should directly look for opportunities to attack the Earth. Isn't Loki on Earth right now? It just so happens that he can be our insider," said Thanos, though he didn't quite trust Loki. But in this case, Loki shouldn't be playing tricks. Because his life is in his own hands. As long as there is any change in Loki, as long as Thanos has a thought, he can directly kill Loki. And when Thanos was doing this before, his movements were very secretive. But Loki must know it himself, but he must not dare to tell Russell about it. So Thanos is pretty sure. It's just that the problem now is not these, but how to open the portal on the Earth without anyone noticing. Send the army over there. If the teleportation is opened directly, the painter may directly come to another army to suppress the situation. At that time, the Kree Empire was really finished, and the Supreme Intelligence would naturally not let this happen. So this matter is left to Thanos, the purple sweet potato essence, to find a way. The Kree Empire only provides troops. They don't care about the rest, it's up to Thanos to decide. It's just that Loki's situation is not very good, although it is not overly suspected. But he was still under guard, and the contact with Thanos was also quietly, but he didn't know it. Walls have ears. Russell is listening carefully to what Thanos is saying. After Loki and Thanos communicated, the goal was roughly determined. Russell has already explained that he is ready to use all tricks to see what tricks Loki can play. But Russell still wants to find a way to find out Loki's handle in Thanos' hands. It is for this reason that Loki has been pinned down by Mage. Russell had probed Loki's body before, and there was nothing suspicious about it. Not even a little bit of a breath. It's all about Loki's own breath. Russell thought about it and couldn't figure out why. He always felt that something was wrong here, that if Thanos planted something in Loki, it would definitely leave a breath. And it's Thanos' own breath, but Loki doesn't have Thanos' breath on him. Just having Loki's own aura is enough to explain the problem, that is, what method Thanos may have used to eliminate the aura. Or maybe they used some other method to get Loki's handle. It's just that the second possibility is not very great. Russell didn't think too much, and directly used the power of infinite gems to pause time. He slowly came to Loki's side, and began to observe Loki carefully because time was a little urgent. And Russell didn't expect Loki to be caught by Thanos at the time. Following the previous state of thinking, Russell took advantage of the opportunity to find out about the aura, although the aura on Loki's body was very pure. But Russell just doesn't believe him. Russell has a hunch that there must be something about Loki. Although Russell didn't find out what it was, it felt like it was there. Time stands still now. Russell has ample time to observe carefully. Generally, the easiest place to invade is the head, and Russell will check from the head first. After observing for a while, he didn't find anything wrong. Russell looked at Loki's heart again, but he seemed to find something wrong. There seemed to be something extra in Loki's heart, and Russell didn't know exactly what it was. But Russell knew that these things must not be good things, and he had been waiting in this place all the time. It's clearly holding Loki's lifeblood. Russell checked other parts by the way, and found nothing, only this lump of indirect matter near the heart. It's just that Russell is not going to take these things out for Loki just yet. One is that if it is taken out now, it may scare the snake, and the other reason is that Russell actually wants to make another profit. It was too comfortable to earn the power of Dormammu and Murphy Toth before. It's just that that kind of opportunity is not always available, but now Thanos is here to send it. It's actually pretty good, at least not for nothing. The fleet brought by these armies can be handed over to Wakanda to study and study. As for the army, just send it directly to the small universe and grind it into energy. At the moment, Thanos didn't know that his plan had actually been leaked, and even the army had been figured out. Still happy, thinking about the timing of the attack. New York, in the hospital ward, Quicksilver Pietro quickly found Thor's figure. This guy is well known in the hospital, he looks strange, but he got in trouble later. It was even considered by some people to be mentally ill. But after Pietro found Thor, he had a feeling at first sight. This is really a salted fish. Messy hair, messy beard, and dull eyes, this is definitely a salted fish. This situation is a little tricky. Originally, Pietro thought that Thor should not be too difficult to deal with, just to help him regain his confidence. It seems to be a bit difficult now, but since Pietro chose to take over this task, then you have to bite the bullet and go. Looking at him, Pietro really has no way to start. Not sure where to start. And at the moment Thor also noticed the big boy. The keen Thor looked at the stranger in West Zhejiang, and immediately realized that his identity might not be simple. Sure enough, Thor's guess was right. The big strange boy just now walked in front of him at the moment. Hi, I'm Pietro, I know your identity. Before Thor could answer, Pietro picked up Thor and ran quickly to the hidden place. Thor only felt a gust of wind blowing, and then he encountered a strong wind, and then, I have already arrived at this strange place. Well, it's absolutely safe here. Saying that, Pietro suddenly disappeared from where he was. Before Thor could react, Pietro appeared from the spot again. Okay, no one is following us. Who the hell are you and why did you bring me here? Thor is very wary of Pietro, which is no wonder, after all, Pietro's way of playing is too peculiar. Even though Thor is from Asgard, he has never seen such an operation. What's more, I don't know him yet. It's really suspicious. Pietro looked at Thor with a vigilant face, and said helplessly, I'm here to help you, and I know about you. Your Mjolnir should be out of your control now. Quicksilver looked at Thor and said, how do you know? Thor heard Pietro say about Mjolnir. Immediately became alert. You don't have to worry about this, I can take you to find your hammer, but there is one condition. Listening to Pietro's words, Thor fell into deep thought. Looking at the sincere Pietro, Thor is still reluctant to believe Pietro. Why should I trust you? I don't even know what your purpose is now. Thor is not stupid enough to choose to believe Pietro without directly. Oh, why don't you believe it? I won't harm you. If I save you like this, who will notice you? Looking at Thor's appearance, Pietro really didn't understand what he had to worry about now. However, after repeated hesitation for a while, Thor decided to follow Pietro. That's right, let's go. Let's eat something first, and then go to your hammer. Asgard, Odin watched Thor and Pietro leave. He said lightly, this little guy should be someone sent by Russell. It should be true. It seems that the Supreme Mage is also paying attention to Thor. I hope Thor can grow up quickly. Frigga behind Odin looked worriedly at Thor's figure on the light screen. Odin looked at Frigga and said angrily, that's the way it is, there's nothing to worry about. Thor, this child, is still too easy to trust others, and people's minds are the most difficult to guess. Thor trusts others so easily, so he will suffer in the end. Although Odin said he was not worried, but Odin's eyes had already betrayed him. The deep worry has long been exposed in the eyes. Frigga looked at Odin, and didn't expose him. Her child is alone on the earth. How many parents are not worried? Wakanda, even if I dawdles, this Bifrost should be built, but there are still a few decorations. But just like this, the construction technology of the dwarf family is still far ahead of Wakanda. Not only structural advantages, but also innate advantages, although Tony has been studying the matter of black hole grenades. But he's also interested in Bifrost and dwarfs. It's just that the dwarfs are all burly and huge, and Tony is like a little ant in front of them. This made Tony a little uncomfortable. If it was normal, Tony would definitely make a big mech first without saying a word. But now Tony has more important things to do, and the analysis of black hole matter has also fallen into a bottleneck period. It happened that Nick Fury also caught Thor's trace, but when they found the man next to Thor. Somewhat surprised, Nick Fury could clearly see the person staying with Thor in the picture sent back by the satellite. It was Pietro, who was investigated by S.H.I.E.L.D. before, and he was one of the pair of children who came out of the slums. There's one more that hasn't been revealed yet. I don't know what the reason is, but there is something strange, that is why he stays with Thor. You must know that Thor is a dangerous person, and he was even treated as a mental patient by the hospital. After meeting him before, Nick Fury thought for a while that he had made a mistake, although the man was very similar to the real Thor in appearance. But temperamentally, he is not alone at all. But now that Pietro appears beside Thor, Nick Fury can be sure that this person is the real Thor. Although he doesn't know why he became like that, Nick Fury still wants to recruit Thor into the League of Fathers. After all, there is the little guy Pietro by his side. It's just that before Nick Fury did anything, the military had already arrived at that place. Because of the previous incident, Thor has been targeted by the country, and they also used satellites to see that Pietro used his ability to bring Thor to the suburbs. But they're not in the Nick Fury establishment, plus they're too dangerous. Therefore, they were judged as dangerous elements by the military, and the country immediately ordered the two to be brought under control. When Nick Fury found out, military troops and helicopters had already arrived at the place where Pietro and Thor were hiding. As soon as these military helicopters approached, Pietro spotted them. "It's time for us to go. People from the military are here. This posture is not a good thing." Without waiting for Thor to say anything, he picked up Thor and left here. The people in the military only saw an afterimage, and then they couldn't see anything. It's as if it just disappeared out of thin air. It even disappeared on the satellite, but soon found Pietro and Thor not far away. Now their situation is a bit delicate, and those troops have not found them yet. And their position should be able to see a little trace on the satellite. But Pietro thought of a way. He went around a few blocks by himself. After that, he took Thor and hid in a warehouse. The satellite failed to find Pietro either. He was directly confused by the smoke bomb fired by Pietro. Now the two of them are safe for the time being. The soldiers looked like they were fully armed. If they said that they came to invite the two of them back for tea, no one would believe it. And at the moment Nick Fury also met with people from the military, after some exchanges. The military withdrew their troops, leaving Pietro and Thor to Nick Fury's shield. Nick Fury immediately sent an agent to investigate the scene just now. In addition, many guards have been set up where Mjolnir was found before. Immediately report the situation, but Nick Fury is still worried, because even this may not be able to stop Pietro's footsteps. Nick Fury knows Pietro's ability, that speed. It's really not the speed that humans can have. In the holy place, Russell looked at the picture of Thor and Pietro hiding in the warehouse curry. The corners of his mouth raised slightly. Everything was within Russell's control. Pietro, in particular, went almost exactly as Russell predicted. There were few mistakes, and Thor's trust was now close. Russell has actually deduced this matter many times, and deduced almost all possibilities. That's all for now, leaving Pietro to help Thor regain his confidence and lift Mjolnir. Now that things are developing like this, Russell is basically relieved. Russell didn't look at the two of them anymore, and looked at his own small universe silently. After the previous changes, the scale of Russell's small universe continued to expand. The appearance of the small planet belt before also added a lot of things to his small universe. Just after such a short period of time, some small planets have gradually formed the embryonic form of planets through collisions. Although it is only a prototype, the basic functions have not yet been perfected, but once the prototype is out, the rest will come soon. Seeing his own small universe gradually getting on the right track, Russell is very happy, which basically means that he will become a god of dimension like Dormammu. But Russell is not going to let his dimension become the ghost of Dormammu's dark dimension. It's just that Russell still wants to devour a planet, which is far away from the Earth and is on the verge of exploding. In fact, this planet has just been hit by a small planet. The power of this small planet is so powerful that it almost breaks the planet. If it is not resolved as soon as possible, it is estimated that there will be a big explosion, although it will basically not affect the Earth. But the impact on other planets in the entire universe is estimated to be quite large. But since Russell has discovered this planet, he is naturally going to devour it. Rather than letting the planet explode on its own, Russell would have devoured it. Looking at the near-destroyed planet in front of him, there are no living creatures on it. Russell didn't think much, and directly picked up the small universe. As soon as the small universe came into contact with this planet, it was like a hungry wolf suddenly seeing a piece of meat. The engulfment began immediately, and even didn't need Russell to guide it. The small universe began to engulf it further. Soon, streams of energy were absorbed by the small universe, and some dark places in the small universe began to brighten now. In no time, the planet was completely swallowed up. The planet at the moment, which was still fluctuating just now, can't even see a bit of scum. The sky falls on the orbit of the planet. Everything returned to calm. Looking at these places, Russell silently returned to the holy place. For some reason, he always had a feeling that these forces seemed to have their own consciousness. This feeling is very strange. Just after devouring that planet, it seems that the power is a little out of control. Compared with Russell's own strength, there is a significant difference in handling. Although that force is stronger, it is also more difficult to control. These are all obvious. For a moment Russell was also a little worried if this small universe got out of his control. What should I do at that time? These things are likely to happen, if my own strength is not enough. Or if the will is not firm and is affected by the will contained in these forces, it may be a disaster. At that time, I am afraid that not only the small universe will become a dimension like Dormammu. The current world may also be affected. Thinking of this, Russell quickly inspected the power of the small universe. Sure enough, just as Russell felt, many of these devoured energies had their own will. When Russell collected these energies, he encountered resistance. Although the strength of the resistance was not great, Russell really felt the resistance just now. As soon as this change came out, Russell immediately became alert, although the resistance was weak. But this resistance is indeed real, although it seems to be only a small strand now. But if the energy that has just been swallowed has this kind of will, that would be an absolute disaster for Russell's small universe. Russell was very clear on this point. Without any hesitation, Russell directly erased all the imprints of power and will. It is not a joke to prevent the remaining will from remaining, if this will is allowed to continue to exist. It's hard to say whether there will be any emergencies. After all, Russell had never encountered such a situation. It's better to be cautious when doing things. Even with 3 infinite gems, Russell is still very cautious. New York, Trident Building. S.H.I.E.L.D. Tony has arrived at the Trident Tower. Nick Fury had previously told him to meet a few other League members here. As soon as Tony arrived at the Trident Building, many people had already recognized Tony. His Stark industry can be said to be like a thunderbolt. Following the agent's guidance, Tuo Di went all the way to Shenyang Bureau. On the way Tony also met a kid, who was at best a high school student. Hey, hello. You're Mr. Stark. I'm Mike. Oh, hello boy. What are you doing here? This is not the place for children to come. Oh no, Mr. Stark, I'm here to join the League of Worried Fathers. Little Spider-Man said, looking expectantly at Tony. That's not bad, do it well. Tony didn't say much, and got into the elevator with Little Spider-Man. Following the guidance of the agent, the two entered a room. Here, Nick Fury is sitting on a chair, and several people are already sitting on the sofa beside him. Okay, the staff is here. Today, I just want you to meet briefly. There are others still recruiting. Nick Fury said. We will have more members to join in the future, please rest assured. I only care about everyone's strength. What is the purpose of this alliance? Is it national security? Tony still has some prejudice against these agents. But Nick Fury is no stranger to it, and explained patiently. The League of Worried Fathers was formed primarily for the safety of the planet. I believe you also know that there are many people who are staring at the resources on the Earth. There is also the habitable planet of the Earth.